Hi guys, how you going? Hope you're well. Not a board review this time, I'm afraid. It's a bit of a tech talk. I'm gonna try and cover a little bit on surfboard bottom contours, so concaves basically, concaves and convexes. I'm gonna try and keep it relatively simple. I was hoping to do a one take on this like I usually do with all my other reviews, but I don't think that's gonna happen because it's a bit more complicated than that. So I'm gonna try and do my best to break it down for you, leave the confusing stuff out, and I want to go through some of the key points, and then I've got a couple of boards that I can show examples of the different types of concave and convex, and I can tell you what I think of them and how I think they work. Okay, so the big disclaimer is I don't know much about this, so it's like this is my experience and my knowledge, and I am an engineer myself, but I'm nothing like, it's like I don't know anything about laminar flows and hydrodynamics and all that, because I'm not that kind of engineer. That's a proper engineer. So the big thing about surfboards, okay, is there's so many variables that there's very little right and wrong that anyone really knows the true nth degree science behind. They've basically done things over the years, tried it, and they replicate what they know works now, and they try new stuff sometimes. But a surfboard is not about going through the water in a straight line, and it's not about going at 20 degrees to whatever, it's so dynamic. You could be on one rail, on another rail, you could be going in a straight line, you could be going at 50, 20, 45 degrees to the water, you could be going fast, you could be going slow. You've got different rockers in the boards, you've got different riders, the variables are just insane. So it's like trying to understand the most efficient. If you made the most efficient board in a straight line, it probably wouldn't turn, and if you made the best turning board in the world, it probably wouldn't go very good in a straight line. So it's a bit like fins and everything else and rocker with surfboards. If you take something away, if you add something, you take something away. So it's all a trade-off. So just bear that in mind. And I think what I'm trying to work towards here is, if you get these key take-homes of what a single concave does, what a double concave does, what V does, and how the concave can affect the difference between the stringer line and the rocker line, I really think they're the most important things to take home, because you will see that and understand that in a board when you see it on the floor or on a rack, and you'll understand what the shaper has been trying to get at to achieve a certain function. Okay, so in we go. They've broken it down into three types of contours in this, and they are as follows. We've got the concave, which is obviously at the top there, and then we have the convex, which is the belly and the V here, and then we have flat as a comparison. Now, not very many boards would be flat all the way through these days, in fact virtually none. I've got one board, my wingnut nose rider, that's virtually flat all the way through with just some V out of the tail, and that goes really good and it's really fast. The downside of flats is that V has a function and concave has a function, and you're basically missing out on all of those functions if you have a flat board, although in small, clean conditions, they're very fast and very efficient because it's just flat. So I think that's one of the reasons why I actually love my wingnut nose rider so much, because it's got a virtually flat bottom, it's a very flat rocker, and it just slides and glides and charges down the line. It's just an absolute ball. So okay, so we can pretty much rule out flat as being the that's the control. That's basically it's not a concave and it's not a V, and it helps you understand the convex and the concave and the convex and the concave. Sorry. So basically, we're going to go through that again. So a concave is the rails are on the waterline, so this straight line is the waterline, and the concave goes upwards and into the board from there. And then the convex is the rails are on the waterline and they have an even lower point in the water, and that low point in a V form or whatever it is gonna add features, and these concaves are gonna add features basically. So again, concave, most of the features that relate to concave are to generate lift, to generate bite, and to change both the angle of the rail to the water, so like kind of its attack angle, if that makes sense. You know, if you look on a flat board, your rail's going to be going in at that angle, and if you look on this, your rail's actually got a more grippy, knifey approach angle. And they can also be used to change the rocker at the stringer line to the rocker at the rail line. I'll explain that in a minute. And the same with V, you can cut V's in different ways to allow you to actually change your rocker in different places. So yeah, so concaves, again, concaves are generally for creating lift as a general rule, lift and bite. And then, you know, you see here, you see your V there, that's convex, and it's basically in modern high performance boards, it's the only real convex you're going to see. The convexes are really going to be in longboards and hulls generally. So that V that I showed you on that picture is just a straight V, so it's like two completely angular panels, and they're very rarely used either. What usually happens with a V is it's usually turned into either a concave V or a rolled V, and it probably isn't that likely to be I'll tell you what, it'll be a rolled V on the modern boards, but yeah, rolled V's again, kind of a old school thing. So yeah, and it's interesting as well, because this is where stuff gets confusing. You know, you look at this concave V, well, how's that different to a double concave? Well, technically the bottom of your V there is further in the water than your rail line, so that kind of actually does make it makes it a concave V. Whereas if your rail line, if the center point here was further into the board than the rail line, that would actually be double concave then. So again, that sort of stuff can get a little bit confusing. And I've actually finally learned what spiral V actually is. Apparently a lot of these shapers were all developing similar things at the same time, so they all came up with different names. So okay, so let's quickly go through, I'm just going to quickly touch on longboard contours, because this is where this is kind of the only place where you're really going to see these convexes used a lot. So here we've got a pretty normal longboard range of concaves there. So what it's showing you is it's showing you up in the nose. They don't all have this, so don't take that as read. So up in the nose, you've got a nose concave that gives you some lift when you're on the nose. It assists your nose riding, and apparently it makes the rail a bit easier to get into the water as well, because the attack angle is a bit different. The middle is belly, which you don't see on most modern performance boards. You see it on longboards, and it allows a nice easy roll around the middle of the board, so it's not getting in the way of your turns and the rest of the board. And you see you've got these nice soft corners on the rail, and then the tail there is basically it's probably going to be a rolled V. So it's basically, there's if you had your angles of your V going there and there, and then you rounded them off, you got some sort of rounded V. So that's basically making it rock tip from edge to edge really easily. And yeah, that's usually the function of these V's and double V's. But as you can see, one of the big take-homes about this is actually the main things to do with these concaves are actually how you utilize a combination of concaves to get you the best effects of everything you want. Okay, so back onto just the simplified, we'll just get down to the more high performance end of the contour. So back again, we've got concave. So single concave there. Single concave generates a lot of lift, and from what I was reading, if you take the single concave all the way through the board, it makes it very fast, but it directs all of the water flow in a very straight line off the tail, and it relies on the waves being high quality, and the rider not being too heavy, and there not being too much chop on the wave, which is, not ideal. So probably a lot of people maybe don't ride full single concaves, but a lot of people actually swear by them. So, and then the double concave is gives you some more bite. It splits the water flow out towards the fins if it's in the back of the board, and it still creates a lot of lift. And then your V will actually create a lot of rock in the board. So the V a V like off the tail or all the way through the board, makes it very easy to roll from rail to rail. So we're going to concentrate on those as being the main ones. We're basically going to concentrate on single concave, double concave, and V. And as we were saying before, V is very rarely like just a flat straight panel. What V is usually going to be is it's usually going to be the concave V or a rolled V. So basically on the backs of most boards it's probably going to be that concaved V, because if you just got a straight V, it's a very sharp line and it's going to send the water off the rail edge, whereas if you round it a little bit, it encourages more of the water to cling to it and it gives it a smoother flow. So again, you don't see a lot of these features running all the way through the board. You know, some of the older longboards and stuff, they'd be V bottoms all the way through, but basically in the modern board we're using combinations of contours to create a desired effect. So the typical 90s bottom contour of choice would be the single to double with a V off the end. So this is, there we go, so this is the nose. So you've got your single to double, so you see there's your single concave in the middle of the board. Now the single concave basically gives you a fast lift orientated engine under your front foot, and then when you get to the back end, your double concave gives you grip, and it still gives you some lift, but it gives you grip, hold, and it allows you to turn more easily. And you've got this sharper, your rail's not sat at that angle to the water. When you dig it in, it's actually already got like an angle of attack kind of thing. And then you've got the single to V there. So basically a single to V would be the same engine under your front foot, and then out of the back it's a board it's making the board very easy to tip from side to side. So what you kind of usually find is most boards these days are actually single to double to V, and that's pretty much the most common bottom contour, I'd say. And there's your single all the way through. So yeah, even some of the shapers are starting to show the full contours of the board running from nose to tail. And this is an interesting one because this is off the JS Psycho Nitro. So here's I've got one of these boards, and this is basically the concave. So what it's saying is, up in the nose there's some rolled V. So up in the nose, what rolled V does is, on a small wave board where the nose is quite close to you because it's so short, and you're assuming the waves are going to be small and quite choppy, that actually splits the water and stops the nose from purling. So it gives you almost like it's like the front of a boat going through the water. It splits it to the side. So then you've got your next thing is your single concave, and as you can see, that's going to be running all the way through. But inside that single concave at the back is a double concave. So the double concave is giving you that grip and that hold, and it's also channeling water towards the fins. Whereas if you're a single concave, the water would want to come straight. This is actually going to go straight, and then the double's going to direct it through the fins. And then off the tail is a little bit of V. So once the water's come through, giving you your speed, you've got your big lift under your front foot here from the engine, and then you've got the lift with bite at the back, and then the V then at the back is allowing you to rock a bit easier from rail to rail. So when you're on the end doing your turn, it's already rolling into the turn. So that's basically how concaves are giving you lift, how they're giving you water flow, how the V works. Yeah, it's really hard. It's a really hard one to sort of explain through some of this one, but I'll put some links to some of these. I might try and split this into 2 videos and then show you a bit more again actually on the boards. So the other thing I wanted to try and explain was spiral V, if I can. That's probably easiest to explain on the board, but this is basically the same with single concaves. It's all about how do we get the rocker of the board to be different in different places. So this is what you can't do with a flat bottom board, because if you take sections through the board all the way through, it's going to be flat, And if you take a board and you put V into it like this, so let's say we're down here and this is the midpoint of the board, and we come to the tail of the board and the V goes like this, and it increases and it increases and it increases and it increases and it increases. You can see this bit here, this is a stringer. So if I'm here, the string is not moved, so we go again with a V. So the string is, this is about where my chest is. The string is stay straight, stay straight, stay straight, and you can see this V is accelerating and accelerating and accelerating and accelerating. So what you actually end up with is you end up with your rocker line staying with your stringer line staying with a very straight rocker, and you end up with your rail line being increased. So that actually allows you to have a fast flat bottom, and also have an increased rail rocker, which will actually help you in the turns. And then the same with the single. If you've got a board that's flat, but you imagine it's running a lot of rocker through the length of the board, if you take an arc like this and cut it straight through the board, you've basically created a full center section that you've flattened back out again, if that makes sense. So if you take something that's got a load of curve that way, and you go and put a big straight arc cut all the way through that curve, you've actually just completely flattened a big section under your front foot, which is going to give you a lot of speed that you wouldn't get if the whole board was rockered, because you'd just be pushing water. So these are the complex things, but I'm going to try and I'm going to end it there, and I'm going to try and show you some of these features on the board, and hopefully that helps. Cheers, see you soon guys.